Net worth is a good measure of the wealth a person has in terms of their financial position, and it includes the total value of your assets. That's your home, other properties you own, your cash on hand, stocks, bonds, you name it, minus any liabilities like mortgage debts, personal loans, or credit card debts. There are basically only two ways to increase your net worth. You can either choose to grow your existing capital by saving a part of every single dollar you earn and invest those funds wisely over the long term, or simply reduce debt, since that is what reduces your net worth. Now the first one is growth of capital. What this entails is making earnings on investments. And how do you earn on your investments? There are three ways: through interest, dividends, or capital gains. Let's take a closer look at earning interest. Simply put, interest is what is paid by a borrower for the use of money. Let's say you borrow money from the bank. The bank will charge you interest for using their money. Similarly, when you deposit money into a bank account, the bank pays you interest because they are using your money. The same applies to investing in a bond or GIC. You are really lending money to the issuer, and so you receive interest. When dealing in interest, it is important to understand the two types, simple and compounding interest, so that you can easily choose which one suits better. So, simple interest is interest earned periodically, usually on an annual basis, on only the principal amount, your initial investment. That's okay if you are withdrawing the interest each year and using it for something else. While compounding interest is interest earned on the principal amount as well as on accumulated interest already earned. This is a better option if you are planning to leave the principal and the interest in your account to accumulate. For example, Mike deposits $1,000 into an account with 5% simple interest. At the end of the first year, he will have $1,050. In the second year, Mike earns another 5%, but only on the initial $1,000. And so at the end of the second year, he will have $1,100. Had the same investment been earning 5% compounding interest, Mike would still have the same $1,050 after the first year. However, at the end of the second year, Mike would earn 5% on $1,050 instead of just on the initial $1,000. He would have $1,102.50, which doesn't seem like much right now, but would make a big difference over the long run, give it 30 or 40 years. With compounding interest, there can also be different periods of time for compounding the interest. Interest can compound annually, every 6 months, quarterly, or daily, and the higher the frequency, the more effective the accumulation. The compounding effect is not limited to interest only. It also applies to other investments. It is actually one of the most powerful ways to leverage investments over time. For example, two 18-year-olds need to save for the future. Jane invests $1,000 a year at 8% for 7 years, and then stops at age 25 and leaves the investment to compound until age 65. Sam, on the other hand, waits until age 25 and then invests $1,000 a year at 8% for 40 years until age 65. Who accumulates the most money at 65? Jane would have about $209,000, while Sam would have about $280,000, even though he invested $40,000, almost 6 times as much as Jane's little $7,000. What? You can see how important it is to start early like Jane did. The smartest move, of course, is to start early and continue for the entire 47 years, thereby accumulating a combined $489,000. That's a pretty great return on a $47,000 investment. Now, two other ways of earning on your investments we have dividends, which are the earnings declared on your equity investments, either once or more frequently every year. These dividends, when used to buy more of the equity, increase the value of your investment. And we also have capital gains, which is the amount that your equity investments increase in value over time. When these investments are sold, you realize the gains. Now let's talk about reduction of debt as the other way to increase your net worth. Financially speaking, there are two types of debt, good debt and bad debt. A mortgage, for example, can be considered good debt because most of the time they offer low interest rates and you are building an offsetting asset. Many people stress over their mortgage and hurry to pay it off. That is an emotional decision rather than a logical one. Thought needs to be put into this. If your mortgage is at 3% and you can invest money safely at a much higher rate and enjoy some tax savings too, then you are much better off making the investment. Meanwhile, credit cards generally have interest rates in the double digits, like 19.9%. Having a high balance to pay on these credit cards is very bad debt. Another example of bad debt is high-interest loans. These loans often start with little or no interest just to lure you in, but then they balloon into very high-interest loans. Every attempt should be made to eliminate these types of debts. It is extremely difficult to reduce bad debt if most of your payments are going to service the loans in the form of paying off interest. However, there are some things you can do. You can get a lower interest credit card or line of credit and transfer the balance to it, or take out a low interest debt consolidation loan. Or better still, if you own a home, consider refinancing to pay off all bad debt. It is very important to destroy and discard any high interest rate credit cards that you have. It won't do you any good to transfer your balance to another credit card or line of credit while keeping the high interest credit card open. Resist the credit temptation.